Saints Row 4 was a colossal bummer on all fronts, but with all the remasters, it gives games a second chance to right some wrongs, or at least yield a more convenient way to access the classics. But Saints Row 4 wasn't a classic, so does this re-elected president have a better term this time around? Let's find out here in this review of Saints Row 4 Re-elected. Re-elected might mark the first time a remaster actually performs worse than its last generation version, despite it hardly looking better than an average looking Xbox 360 or PS3 game. During my 20-hour playthrough, I had multiple disconnects in co-op, around 6 or 7 hard locks, and more than a few progress stopping bugs. This is supposed to be the better version, and yet every single time I inserted the disc, I had to worry about it exploding inside my PS4. Most remasters add something, or at least improve the game's performance and visuals. Sadly, Saints Row 4 Re-elected's biggest new feature is a wealth of horrible bugs. Glitches aside, Saints Row 4 still has the same issues. The superpowers granted to the gang makes traversal a breeze. Zipping around and leaping from building to building makes carjacking irrelevant, as on-foot movement is much more flexible and swift. And that much carries the traversal far, but not far enough. The digital city of Steelport wasn't made with these powers in mind, which leads to some instances of tight squeezes and irritating losses in momentum. You'll be cruising along quite quickly thanks to the improved frame rate, but you'll inevitably hit a literal wall or some general jank that abruptly halts any flow. Games like infamous Second Son crafted cities around the game's available set of powers, and it's obvious that Steelport wasn't constructed with the same amount of care. Offensive powers like stomping and ice balls are good fun as well, but nothing really meshes with the shooting. Don't mistake that as a burn towards the shooting. It feels smoother than most others in the genre, but it isn't on the same wavelength as the power set. There's an odd disconnect between wanting to use your powers and guns in tandem. Switching just isn't quick enough to form a cohesive gameplay experience that seamlessly integrates gunplay and the superpowers. Even though the shooting feels great and has an inventive weapon layout, the entire game suffers from an uncomfortable amount of sameness. Saints Row 4 has the same exact visual style as Saints Row the 3rd, it's set in the same city, it has the same HUD, it recycles a lot of the same jokes, and enemies still annoyingly juggle you around when you take a hit. All of this copied and pasted content is not only inexcusable, but it does little to drum up excitement while doing anything. You've done these activities before in the same exact place. Saints Row the 3rd was an incredible game, but seeing 4 ride so closely on the 3rd's coattails is as disappointing as it is boring. The story follows the same template of being simultaneously disappointing and boring. The Saints have continued up the chain of command by conquering the White House. After brandishing the entire crib in the Saints' iconic purple hue and throwing in a few strippers for good measure, an alien race known as the Zin invades Earth and holds humanity hostage. The alien race has jacked the gang into some sort of Matrix-like simulation, forcing the purple crew to kick some alien ass and save the human race. An alien invasion feels like a natural progression for the series, but this threat doesn't seem to go beyond an intriguing premise. The boss, that's you, must free the other members of the Saints and stop Zinyak, the Zin's nefarious and drastically underutilized leader. That's it. It's overly simplistic and doesn't really evolve over the course of the game. Because of this, the overall plot can feel monotonous after nearly every banal run-of-the-mill mission. Not even the once amazing writing can save the narrative. A solid joke appears once every few hours, but it does little to distract the player from the many flat debriefing segments and portions of the game where nothing important happens. The only interesting events come in the form of the game's included downloadable content. How the Saints Save Christmas is a delightfully funny holiday-themed mission pack with some solid writing, a cheery atmosphere, and most importantly, a new setting. Enter the Dominatrix is a mockumentary take on the unfinished DLC for Saints Row the 3rd. It's unmistakably unfinished, but the fourth wall-breaking humor and friendly self-deprecating jokes make this short campaign worth seeing through. Including the DLC is an ironic cold reminder of how muted and bland the main game is. Saints Row 4 Re-elected drops the ball more than it drops the bass, and that says a lot considering that it has a gun that shoots dubstep. Remasters generally improve the experience, add new features, or a combination of both. While the included DLC is appreciated, Saints Row 4 is still disappointing on most fronts, and more so now given its rampant bugginess. Performance issues aside, it's also not a game most people would want to see serve another term in office. With a performance like this, impeachment should be inevitable. Saints Row 4 re-elected gets a 6 out of 10. Thank you guys for watching, and goodbye.